Jacob Blake. Just another name for Black Lives Matter and Democrats to use to further their lying narrative.
From the highways of America, here's the podcast where we talk politics, a little entertainment, some culture, and this and that, from the road to your ears. This is Trend Chat with your host, Brian Bledsoe.
And welcome to another episode of Trend Chat. I am your host, Brian Bledsoe, and if you want to connect with us on Facebook and Snapchat, it's at TrendChat247, and on Instagram and Twitter, it's at Brian L. Bledsoe. So, thanks for listening. And as I start this episode, first off, we are recording in West Virginia, as I am parked in a Walmart parking lot, near Wheeling, West Virginia. And so I guess when I talk about inventory updates, which I don't really have any because nothing's really changed since last week, really. So I don't think I'll be doing that this week. And well, I know what I mentioned last week about the hurricane, and so you had Hurricane Laura hit mostly Louisiana, but also Texas as well. And you also have, with the damage that has occurred out there. Now you're gonna have, I don't know for myself, if as far as sending supplies down there. Whenever a hurricane, just a natural disaster hits an area and need to, replenish the supplies. And that's, where we as truckers come in. I mean, you saw that to a larger scale, a couple of months ago with this whole pandemic. And so what'll be going on now with this hurricane is something that's kind of pretty much done every year, one way or another, because there's normally a hurricane hidden somewhere in the U.S. Every year. So I don't know. Maybe I'll be delivering some supplies down there. I don't know. We'll see in the next week or so, as everyone is, I guess, putting the pieces back together now. So Texas wasn't hit as hard as we thought, but that being said, Louisiana was hit very hard. So definitely have thoughts and prayers with everyone that was affected by that hurricane. And this is hurricane season, so it's, who knows what'll be coming in the weeks to come. With, as I mentioned, the pandemic and all that, this part is not surprising, but still, like I said, with everything that's been going on with the pandemic and then now having to worry about the hurricanes as usual. And so it just makes it, imagine having to, not only to, as far as trying to evacuate, but then if after the hurricane is hit, now you have all these, mandates and rules as far as, which added, to as far as the recovery efforts, and now you have to all the social distancing and everything on top of that. So heart go out to everyone that is affected out there. So I guess to kind of continue on a bit of a somber note, because wanted to mention, if you haven't heard, I'm pretty sure you probably have heard about the death of Chadwick Boseman. And most probably recognize him from Black Panther. That's most successful movie that he's made. But he's also played in a number of other movies as well. It's funny in the sense of where, so I found out about this by scrolling through TikTok of all places, and I was just watching little videos and all of that, and then someone had a post saying R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman, and I was thinking, okay, that was a hoax, or someone just playing a cruel joke. I mean, we hear these little death hoax all the time. I really don't like them, but they happen, and I just thought it was a hoax, and I just kind of scrolled on, and the one reason why I thought it was a hoax, because I don't just instantly dismiss it, but just when I saw that particular post, it said, Chadwick Boseman dead at 43. And I didn't know Chadwick Boseman was that old. So when I saw that, I was like, well, for one, that's a lie, because he's not that old. So that's another reason why I just dismissed it and kept going. But then I saw another post, a couple of TikToks later, saying the same thing. So I'm like, okay, let me go to Twitter or something, or check a news outlet and see what's going on. And as soon as I went to Twitter, it was like right there on the trending page, right up the top, saying, Chadwick Boseman dead at 43. I'm like, wow. One, it was shocking in the sense because no one even knew he was sick. And like I said, I didn't know he was that old. I really thought he was in his early 30s. But yeah, so, and I kind of feel like, just, I guess, from how I found out, it's going to kind of be one of those moments that you remember when you found out about news like this. And it's kind of like when I mentioned about Kobe dying earlier this year, and I think I'll never forget that. I mean, also with what I was doing and who I was with as well. And so yeah, but it was one thing, just thinking back when I saw the news, and like I said, no one knew publicly about what was going on, because it turned to find out that he died of colon cancer. And we also found out he was diagnosed in 2016. And so he was making all these movies, physically, demanded movies in the Marvel cinematic universe, and making all these, superhero movies. At the same time, he's battling cancer, and no one knew about that. And the only time any question about his health was a couple of months ago. I think there was like a Instagram post, and he just looked particularly frail, and there were stories just asking about his health, but at the time, his people didn't give any comment to any of that. So I mean, I'm guessing that was a look into what was going on at the time. So, but one thing I was thinking about in all of this in the past couple of days is that, as I said, most know him from playing, Black Panther, but he also played a number of historical black figures like James Brown, Jackie Robinson, and Thurgood Marshall. And I remember in just looking back at that, I guess, filmography, and seeing, how he played all these different figures, and now looking at what he was going through for the past 4 years and dying so, young. I mean, 43, that's pretty young. And thinking of all that, I was like, it's something that he played all these historical black figures, and and then he was doing his thing also, and playing Black Panther. I mean, I feel like there's got to be a movie about him someday, and playing these characters. And I mean, I guess that's up to the family if they want that to happen. But I could just think of that'll be a great movie of someone who was playing all these historical black figures, and then getting the role of a lifetime to be such an inspiration, especially in the black community, to play Black Panther, to play in a superhero movie that had the quality as most other movies in Black Panther, and being on the level like an Iron Man and like all the others, or Superman and all these other movies, and to be that inspiration to so many. I could just see this being a great movie about him doing all of this someday. Like I said, it just depends on, I guess, if the family would want that, and but I definitely could see that happening. So, but again, so just definitely wanted to mention that. I mean, that has been a pretty noteworthy news that's been going on the past couple of days. And I mentioned about Jacob Blake, and I will get to that in a minute. But I definitely wanted to bring it up first before I get into all this other stuff. So matter of fact, I'm gonna take a break for a second, and then we'll get into everything that is Black Lives Matter and Jacob Blake and Kyle Rittenhouse and everything that was going on in Kenosha.
This is Trend Chat with your host, Brian Bledsoe.
This is Lacey Williams, the founder and president of Expressions Magazine, letting you know that you can order our quarterly magazine and support female conservatives by visiting express-conservatism.com, or you can follow us on social media. On Instagram with the username of expressions_conservemag, or on Twitter with the handle of @express_conserve. Get your copy today.
What's going on, y'all? This is Brandon Tatum. Make sure you go to Trend Chat, check it out, listen to it. One of the best shows that I've ever been on. So make sure you go check it out, man. God bless y'all.
Trend Chat is proud to be a part of the #Life Tribe or Culture of Life as they seek to celebrate life through the world of fashion. Go to COL1972.com and get 10% off your purchase when you enter the code Trend Chat. All right, so I guess kind of further as far as tragic situations, at least, not to the point of death, with as we just talked about Chadwick Boseman, but we did have the situation in Kenosha, Wisconsin, with Jacob Blake, and I know by now everyone has probably seen at least the short clip of what happened, where you see Jacob Blake walking around the front of his car, then going into the driver door and opening the driver door, going in, and then that's when the police, shoot him in the back 7 times, as has been noted plenty of times. And now, anyone that has been listening to this podcast for any amount of time know I normally don't talk about any of these short clips, because I cannot stand these little edited short, videos that only give you half, if not just a small piece of the story with no context. And so I just, by a rule, just really don't even get into it until we get some more information, some more details and whatnot. And we've gotten more of those details since in the past couple of days. But even still, I probably would even not even bring it up, or even bring it up just a little bit, and then just wait until we get a lot more details. And actually, in this case, I'm still not really going to talk much about the particular clip, because the aftermath of it is more so what I'm focusing on. But even in that very short clip, just that clip that we've all seen of him going around the car and then him getting shot. Also, if you don't know, it's been reported that he is now paralyzed from the waist down, if I'm not mistaken. And so like I said, he didn't die at the hands of being shot, but he is as of right now is paralyzed. So, but like I said, in watching that short little video, like I said, with no context and nothing else, even in watching that, I see in that video, the first thing I see is the guns are already drawn on Mr. Blake. And so I'm seeing that, okay, like I said, I don't have any other context of what else happened before this. And so I'm seeing the guns already drawn on him, and I see him walking around the front of the of his car, and then he just walking around and going into the driver, seat. And I'm like, the first thought I had watching it, like, why is he just walking around like it's nothing's going on? Like he don't see these cops with their guns out, and he's just gonna walk on around and not, he's not getting down, he's not stopping, he just like totally ignoring them. That's what that would look like in that short little clip there. And I'm like, why is he just ignoring the cops when they clearly got the guns drawn on them? It's not just one. There's more. It's multiple cops all got their guns out, and he's just acting like nothing's going on. And then he goes into his, opens his door and goes in his car, and that's when he gets shot. And so that was my initial thought in watching all of that. And so now the details have, come out, and because at first it was reported that he was there to break up a fight between, I guess two women were, anyway, he was there to break up an altercation, and he was shot for his trouble. Basically, that's how it was reported at first. So another key detail to this that didn't come out until later on, after everyone else got their emotions all riled up and now they're all mad. But now another detail that came out is found out the police was called for him, because a woman called the police on Jacob Blake because he wasn't supposed to be there. And for whatever reason, there are all these other details about his record and all of that, but we can totally just, put that to the side. The only reason that he was even in this situation is because the police was called on him. So this whole narrative that was going on at that time, in I guess probably like the first 24 hours, was that, he was just going out to break up an altercation, and then, then the police just pulled up and just decided to shoot him because he was being a nice man and just trying to help out, and he was shot in front of his kids. Now he was shot in front of his kids, but turned to find out it was his own fault. I mean, the whole situation that happened because of him. So now, outside of that, like I said, like when this all happened, then, you know, obviously the same, you know, same characters come out and say, oh, here we go again, another black man shot by the police. It's a police brutality and all of that. And is another example of, you know, the police is hunting down black men, you know, as this epidemic that is going on. And LeBron James said we're all terrified and all this and yeah. And so, and also what you had is, again, I will acknowledge there are peaceful protests that are going on when these events happen. I can disagree with what they're protesting and why they're protesting, but I can acknowledge there are peaceful protests going on. That being said, I just can't ignore the fact that every time these protests are going on, they tend to coincide with the riot and looting. And so they can say all they want. They're like, okay, we're not doing that. These other people are doing it. My thing is that why every time your protests, you know, your peaceful protests, because that's the media definitely want to focus on the peaceful part. They don't, you know, try to ignore the rioting and that are going on, or try to say, well, that's someone else. That's not the same people who are out there protesting. But I know as someone, as you know, like myself, I participated in a number of those Tea Party protests, especially during the Obama administration. And I went to a number of those protests, whether was in DC or I don't know, Missouri. I'm trying to think. I mean, a lot of them in Texas, down in Austin, and every one that I went to, it never came with a riot. Matter of fact, it was the exact opposite, especially when it comes to law enforcement. We were thanking law enforcement for being there and, you know, keeping everything, you know, orderly. And also, instead of looting, I remember in our protest, we were cleaning up after the rally was over, cleaning up after ourselves, as opposed to destroying the neighborhood. And so that's, you know, like I said, you have the peaceful protests. They're out there, but, you know, they also come with a lot of destruction with them as well. And, you know, I will say if they really want those protests to really mean anything and really want to condemn all of those rioters and looting, and, you know, because they keep saying, like, well, don't lump us in with those, you know, people that are committing all the violence. Well, you need to do a better job. And it kind of goes back to when we talk about accountability and stuff. Okay, well, snitch them out. I mean, I know that's against the whole, you know, no snitching, especially amongst the black community. And so this is just another one of those examples where that's by having that stance is really hurting your cause just for a peaceful protest, because you just can't bring yourself to actually call out the people who are actually hurting your cause. So, but with that, like I said, you had the rioters, and everything that are going on, and also, you know, you have plenty of people who are on social media and like I said, they're saying, like LeBron and I guess other players, other athletes, you know, trying to make the case again without any context of what was going on. They were saying, like, well, they could have tased them, they could have tackled them, they could have done all of this instead of shooting them. Mind you, like I said, they didn't have any context, because as the details came out, they did try to tase them. That didn't work. They tried to bring them down. That didn't work. But they were going off that little short clip and just made all those assumptions But turned to find out that they actually tried that. And and even if they would have done all those other things, then they would have turned around and said, well, you didn't have to be that rough on them. You didn't have to do all that. And so, yeah, it's a no-win situation. I mean, at this point, I feel like, they won't be satisfied until all black suspects are just left to roam free, because they're just leaving law enforcement in a no-win situation whenever they're confronting any suspects. I mean, it almost feel like that they want law enforcement to just basically sacrifice themselves to the suspect, to just, don't do anything until they have pulled out whatever the weapon is, because it doesn't have to be a gun. It could be a knife. And that we found out that Jacob Blake had a knife somewhere, either in the car or on his person. Either way, you can die from a knife. It's pretty easy, but it's like Black Lives Matter, all LeBron, all these athletes, entertainers, Hollywood, whatever, Democrats, they all, at the end of the day, they just want law enforcement to just lay down and just sacrifice themselves in front of the suspects. Because the way they're making it seem is that they don't want police to do anything. They just want them to say, stop. And if they don't stop, don't do anything until they have pulled out the weapon and then plunged it into their chest, or have shot them first, or have put their finger on the trigger, then they can react. I mean, they're really making all these judgments for law enforcement where they're making a split-second decision. And LeBron and all them have no clue about any of that, and they care less, because they want to continue this false narrative, as I mentioned before, about this supposed epidemic of black people being murdered by just white people, because it's not just police, but if you look at any of the stats, that is not the case. But facts don't matter to these groups, to these celebrities and all of that. And it's and like I said, there are also reports about his record and all of that, and also the reason, like I said, the police were actually called on him. And I tell you one thing, it's getting really frustrating and sickening, honestly, about this, because time and time again, we have Black Lives Matter, these celebrities like LeBron, all that, who are out here just defending just the worst people that are doing, I'm really getting tired of this, where you have people who are out here just being just totally out. I mean, like, I guess you could tell how much it's kind of frustrating me, because we have people out here. Just calm it down for a second. Anyway, we have people out here who are out, doing all sorts of crime, who are basically the people that need to be put in jail, need to be, locked up. And then as soon as anything bad happens, like I said, even whether resisting or whatever, and they're so quick to just want to just jump on the bandwagon and try to make them look like, oh, they were just a nice guy. They were just a church boy leaving Bible study, and they were just shot down by a cop that just felt like killing some black people today. And it's really sickening to see that these people are using their influence to defend some of the worst people. And I mean, the NBA was, the playoffs stopped for a couple of days because all the players just stormed off over this whole shooting and everything. They were threatening not to continue the playoffs. At least the Clippers and the Lakers were. And, LeBron was up front of all of that. And, imagine being the NBA. You have basically done everything they've wanted. Done, they've taken money from they've basically held them hostage in a way to where they've given them millions, hundreds of millions of dollars for their causes. And they got Black Lives Matter on the court. They could put whatever message on the back of their jerseys and all that. They can kneel all they want. They can do whatever. They've done all this for these players, and then they still going to have the audacity to say, no, we still ain't satisfied, and we're not going to play. Now they've changed their minds, since, and so that because they've resumed the playoffs. But in those days, when they said that, I'm like, it's just never enough for you people, isn't it? Yeah, I said you people on purpose. Because, I mean, it's just, it's really just stupid, to be honest, what's going on. And unfortunately, it is reaching millions of people because all these, all these players, all these celebrities, all these, Hollywood, and they got millions of people following them. So, you're listening to me talk about this, and whether you agree with me, whatever, like, okay, but we're not reaching millions of people. And you got people like I said, like LeBron and all these, and all these players and all these celebrities, they, got these millions of followers, and they're peddling all this trash, to them, making them seem like, oh, black people just getting killed by the hour, by the minute. And actually, if you want to look at it, and like I said, want to look at the stats of it, yeah, in that case, it is happening, but not from the people that they're saying that it's happening to. It's happening to other black people. Black on black crime. That's the epidemic if you want to find one, because that's where a lot of the black deaths are happening. But they always want to dismiss that and just want to focus on a very small minority of the deaths that happen in our black community. And you have Black Lives Matter that is using that, along with, all of Hollywood, the media are using all of that to, one, use it against Trump, and two, to further their Marxist utopian idea that they want to achieve. A socialist and communist. I mean, all of that tied together. Basically using all of these tragedies as a Trojan horse. I've heard that mentioned a number of times, and I've mentioned it before myself. And it's just they're using all of these deaths, using these people's names as a Trojan horse to get more power in DC, which is already happening. You already have, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. You have Ilhan Omar. You have Rashida Tlaib. You have all these people who are already there, and they want more in there. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people who are, as I said, because they're being influenced from all of these celebrities and, people like LeBron James, to vote for these people and to bring in a fundamental transformation of this country, just to further Obama's words that he mentioned back in 2008. So, but then we also had another situation as well, because in Kenosha, in the midst of all of that, all the riots and stuff, you had another situation where you had someone that were reportedly in self-defense. And so I guess we'll talk about that. Well, first, let's hear a word from, I think it's very timely to play this one because of talking about, Marxism and Black Lives Matter and what they're looking to do. And I think one organization that I think will be vital in this fight against, these ideals that are being pushed by these organizations is Young Americans Against Socialism. So let's hear a word from them.
Hey guys, this is Morgan Zegers, the founder and CEO of Young Americans Against Socialism. We are a nonprofit organization working to preserve a free, fair, and prosperous America for generations to come, all by equipping our generation with the truth about socialism. If you are interested in watching our educational videos, donating to the cause, joining the Ask Coalition, or becoming a contributor, you can do all of these things at fightsocialism.org. We hope you'll join us in this crucial fight for the future of our great country. Thanks!
Hey everybody, it is Chad Prather, host of the Chad Prather Show. You are listening to Trend Chat with my man, Brian Bledsoe. Come on with it.
We here at Trend Chat, we are proud to be part of the 1776 militia. Check out 1776united.com. They have a wide array of clothing, hats, shirts, art, and more that is fiercely patriotic and stylish to match. Go to 1776united.com, and if you put in the code TRENDCHAT, you get 20% off your first purchase. Again, 1776united.com, put in the code TRENDCHAT for 20% off. So, I guess before I get into talking about also what happened in Kenosha with Kyle Rittenhouse, the Republican National Convention just passed and had 4 days of speeches. And, at the end with President Trump officially accepting the nomination, which, I'm surprised. It was a pretty close race, but because I didn't know if he was going to accept it or not. but that being said, I enjoyed the speech, and it was bittersweet to watch on TV because I was a alternate national delegate and was anticipating going to the convention, and we found out over a month ago that we weren't going because of obviously the pandemic and everything. And so it was, bittersweet to kind of watch it because you were anticipating to go. And also I would say this even on both sides, whether it's the Democrats or Republicans, because, people who are elected to be a delegate, that's not easy. And it doesn't happen. These conventions only happen every 4 years. So, I can understand there were probably some Democrats watching last week were, sad that they weren't able to participate in the convention because being a delegate is, whether it's alternate or not, it's a recognition from your district, your community, about the work that you're doing, and it's kind of great to go on a national event like that to network and just be a part of the whole spectacle, really. So, but yeah, so I mentioned that as well because we also had the next day, because it was an 57th anniversary of Martin Luther King's speech in Washington. And so Al Sharpton decided to have a march on Washington, which is somewhat ironic because I'm pretty sure a lot of the people who were at that march don't follow some of Dr. King's words as far as judging people on the content of their character, not the color of their skin. I don't, from a lot of the rhetoric, especially from someone like Al Sharpton, that don't seem to be true. They seem to do a lot of judging based on people's skin color, especially as in talking about all these shootings and everything. Because at least that's what I get from it. But also I wanted to mention, I don't know, do they realize how hypocritical they look when they're not only with the riots and everything, even just the protests, but also with this march, that they look pretty hypocritical when it comes to, because there's no social distancing. And I mean, yeah, they may be wearing a lot of masks, but they are not 6 feet apart from each other. And they having all these huge gatherings, but then want to turn around and be the main ones that are pushing for all these mandates and that people should stay at home, or especially when it comes to election, they're one of the biggest advocates for mail-in voting. And yet you have all these events where you got all these mass number of people gathering around for hours, whatever, and they're all together. And so I don't know how they can't see that. Okay, if you could do all that, you could at the very least go vote, because one, voting is not going to take that long, unless you're in line. But there could be ways to even mitigate that, where you don't have to be in line, or at least around a lot of people. You can maybe, I don't know, take a number or something like that, and maybe stand off somewhere else, or stay in your car until it's your turn and go in and vote. So by doing all these events, they're basically making the case that we should be able to at least vote. This shouldn't be a problem. And the more they keep doing these sorts of events, they keep making the case. But then they want to turn around and say, no, we need mail-in voting. Like, why? Like, to vote is as far as voting itself is not that long. No, I don't care how long the ballot is. It could be a couple of pages, still not going to be as long as an average trip to, the grocery store. So that just seeing that, and like I said, also I just found that hypocritical in just what they're doing, and then turn around and wanting to scream about we need mail-in voting, and but anyway, I guess kind of to go back to what happened. So you had a situation where you had a young man, 17-year-old, who turned out killing 2 people and injuring 1. And there's another one of those short little clips. So and so we don't have all the details in this as well. Now, even in this, so from the short clip, from what we've seen so far, it looks like he was shooting in self-defense. Now, like I said, there's a lot of other context that we haven't seen. There's a lot of other details. And so who knows where this is going to go. But I mean, from looking at that, he was running away, and it's like it wasn't like he was running toward. He was on the ground, then start shooting. And so from that, that's what I get out of it. Just watching that, and then at the point to where, well, one of the people, the one that actually was injured but not killed, had a gun on him. So of all the things that went on with this, that one part where you had a guy had a gun in his face, and that's the one he shot in the arm, that was holding the gun in that arm. out of all the things, that right there seems justified. Like, person's on the ground, got nowhere to go. Guy pulls out a gun, pretty much almost point blank range. What you gonna do? Now, all the other circumstances, everything else that's around it, it's just another situation we'll find out. Whether it's about, him being 17 and whether he was carrying legally and all of that and yeah. So this whole situation with Jacob Blake, it really caused, changed a lot of people's lives, because it's something I don't know. I think I probably mentioned on here before, is that when you pull out that weapon, whenever you have that gun out, at that point, there's a good chance your life is about to change. But as soon as you pull that trigger, even if you don't hit anyone, there's going to be a consequence happening to you if you, especially if it's caught on video and all of that. And if you're, caught by police just firing a weapon. And so if you actually hit someone, then right there, your life has changed. Then if you actually kill someone, again, to a higher degree. And so when you pull that weapon out, you better be sure that you absolutely have to do this. Because if you don't. Because once you pull that trigger, everything changes. Because a lot of us don't have, insurance. Even if you have this, a lot of, gun organizations like NRA or USCCA have these like legal plans for gun owners. And even if you have that, I mean, for one, that's a good thing to have. I don't know if you had it or not, but this ain't an advertisement for them, but it's still a good idea to have, especially if you're a gun owner, and especially if you're someone that carries every day, all the time. Everywhere you go, you definitely need it. Because some people don't. Some people carry carry sometimes or whatever. But if you're someone that's carrying all the time, or in situations where you need to carry it a lot, then yeah, you need some protection. Because, like I said, you pull that when you pull that trigger, that's a lot of things are going to change. And having some legal protection through one of those organizations, like I say, check them out yourself. And so you may want to look into that if you're someone. And as this year goes and how things are looking, I mean, with all these riots like what's going on in Portland and also other cities as well, I mean, there's a lot of civil unrest that's just going on in general. I mean, I would say it's a good idea to have your firearm on you, because you just never know when things are just going to go south all of a sudden. So, and I can only imagine what's going to happen if Trump wins. I mean, you saw, I don't know if you saw, but when they did the his acceptance speech on Thursday, you had all those people out there just trying to disturb the whole speech and everything that was done at the White House. And I mean, you had all these marches that have been going on, and it hasn't really stopped. The discontent about Trump has not stopped since 2016. I mean, with the women's march and all that, it just had been constantly going and has been constantly ramping up more violently as well. Because I mean, discontent in particular, that's not a surprise for any president, really, Republican or Democrat. But in this case, we just have violent riots that are going on. This violence that is going along with it is most concerning. And I just think, everyone, I mean, we already seen the stories about about firearm sales going up in the past couple of months. But yeah, people need to take their security in their own hands, in the sense. I mean, also because in a lot of these cities where they're listening to these Black Lives Matter activists and all these people who are telling them to defund the police. So if they're going to listen to them, then you're on your own, literally. So you need to have your firearms, need to have your guns, because they basically have cowered to these groups and have defunded any protection that you normally would have. So yeah, get your gun and be proficient in it, train with it, know what you need to do. And like I said, again, that is a last resort. That is not something you just pull out and just start shooting just because. And even like when someone want to fire a warning shot, like, no. I mean, pulling that trigger should be the very absolute last resort. And it, in the case of like Kyle Rittenhouse, I think that was a last resort, especially in the sense of where you had someone who was pointing a gun in his face. I don't think he really had too much of a choice. But, so anyway, as we enter close to the hour again, I do want to get to the shout outs, because we have one entry on here, which I think I've mentioned before, but that being said, I still don't know how to feel about it. So let's get to that. All right. Okay. All right. Bring that down a little bit. And so let's just start off with the cities, which, yeah. So starting off with Longmont, Colorado, Cleveland, Ohio, San Antonio, Texas, Washington, D.C., Santee, California. Now, this next one, I'm just going to say India, because I cannot. This is a. Okay. I'm just going to spell it for you. BHUBANESWAR, India. Thank you for listening. I just can't say your name. Maybe someone could tell me how to phonetically say it. So, but and next is Dallas, Texas, Austin, Texas, and then Patina, India, and at the top would be Allen, Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth, North Texas. So anyway, let's get to the countries. Now, we have Australia, and this is the country I was talking about as far as don't know how to feel about this. The next country is China. Yeah, I think China has been on here before, but I'm like, wow, who in the world is listening in China? That being said, if I hope you like what you're listening. I honestly don't know how you're able, that you're able to listen to me, to be honest. Yeah. China's on the list. And so after that is Mexico. And then at number 2 still holding strong is India. It should be obvious given the fact that I just mentioned 2 cities in India. And so India at like 15% of the listenership of this podcast is in India. And then at the top obviously is the United States at 75%. Yeah, 78%. But, those stats have been for, the United States have been like 85, 90%, 95%. And then it'd be other countries there. But ever since we've started on that service that is based out of India, which is, I guess it's primarily played in India. Ever since we got on that service, for forgive me, and I've forgotten the name of the service. I would have mentioned it. I'm definitely going to look that up so I can mention it in particular, because, like I said, ever since we started on there, you got like 10-15% listeners in India, which, again, if you're listening in India, thank you. And like, share, and subscribe. Even you that are listening in China, like, share, and subscribe. Maybe it'll be a help to you. So, and Australia and other countries as well. So we're going to end on that happy note, because we've had a lot of just the depressing news to talk about in this episode. One thing I guess I want to mention as well as we close is, like I said, I'm not going to really go into the inventory update because there's really nothing to update. Everything is still the same. And so now, one thing don't know if I've mentioned, I think I mentioned in a while, is that I also do a podcast on the Blexit, Texas Facebook page called Liberty and Freedom, and we're on every Sunday at 7:00 Central Time, 7 p.m. Central Time. And so it's me and Harper Price, and we talk about things that are going on. It's kind of like this in a way. We focus a little more on stories that are affecting the Black community in particular. And so, check that out. Like I said, it's on the Blexit, Texas Facebook page. And again, thank you for listening. Really appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. And just engage social media. Send us an email, trendchat247@gmail.com, and all of that. So until next time, we'll chat with you later.